Light up, light up. Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if Eric will ever take action and sort his life out, or will things just not really work? Going by your cards, the Empress in the primary position is representing you, which shows that you're doing everything you need to do. You're being understanding and you're being nurturing and you're trying to be there for him, but he's just not really being receptive towards it, which this is shown in the Hermit card in the secondary position in reverse. It's showing that even though he usually is someone who kind of keeps to himself, it's certainly reached a point where it's detrimental. Like it's very hard to help someone who can't communicate what's even wrong with him. Three of Cups in the final position in reverse is showing that ultimately he is going to keep fighting you when it comes to giving him any kind of support. And he's ultimately just going to keep retreating the more that you try to give him anything. So, right now, it's looking like he won't really take action as the way things are now. So, I would suggest giving him some space. And I think that would help facilitate him making a choice on his own, which this is pretty normal for this kind of situation. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds for the two of you, as well as any other issues that may come up, you can give me a call or send me a message.
Patriarchy, though it is more realistically a result of women's higher standards for domestic order. And I think that is absolutely true. There is no patriarchal oppressor of forcing me to fold the laundry the way I do, to do it as frequently as I do, to sweep up the floors and vacuum all the time, and to, cook and clean every single day. There's no patriarchal oppressor forcing me to do that. I choose to do that because I want to live a certain way. I don't want the house to be a total mess all the time. I don't want to eat garbage junk food all the time. I want to eat healthy food. I love cooking. So for me, it's not even a chore; it's a joy. Yeah, you have to clean up afterwards. Okay, that's the trade-off of cooking. So what? But if you want a certain standard of living, you have to put in the work. And women tend to have a higher standard of living than men. I would say, just to compare out the two, just look at all of the TikTok and Instagram and YouTube videos of single women in New York, these girl bosses giving you tours of their apartments, and then compare that to bachelor pads. Okay, like night and day. Okay, so a lot of this, I think she's correct to say this here, is that women have put standards of cleanliness and domestic order upon themselves, and a lot of this the men in their lives probably aren't asking for, but these women still blame the patriarchy anyways, and then they claim this is a double shift, so it's like a second full-time job. And so women can't keep up with this, especially if you're a girl boss and you have a corporate 9-to-5 job, you're commuting, you live in a big city, like you can't keep up with it all. So women leaving the home en masse created a demand for a servant class at rates affordable to the median wage household, a demand met that lacks immigration policy. So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to caveat this by saying, I have openly advocated for leveraging outsourcing domestic work. So if you are a girl boss and you have the economic means to do so, and you feel burdened by doing domestic work, my personal belief is there's no reason why you need to continue doing that domestic work in the year 2026. You're earning an income, so if you don't want to do the laundry, you can send it out to a laundry service. If you don't want to clean your home, you can hire a housekeeper and they can take care of that for you. You don't want to cook, you can hire out any number of resources, whether it's ordering catering, whether it's a private chef, whatever. You can order out all of that stuff and outsource it, right? So I've openly advocated for that. But at the same time, and what the author points out here, this is a double-edged sword. So yeah, you can outsource all of that. But what has happened is the millennial girl boss, white collar, clicky clacky office class has created a servant labor force that meets all of their needs for them. The expectation is that these people work for a peasant wage. So, I mean, childcare is the best example, right? You have women who want to work in these corporate 9-to-5 careers who demand someone else take care of their children while they go off to work. And in exchange, they complain when the cost of childcare is too high, right?
Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if Kim is truly done with you or if she's coming back. Going by your cards, the Nine of Cups in the primary position and reverse is showing that hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if Kim is truly done with you or if she's coming back to you. Going by your cards, the Nine of Cups in the primary position and reversed does show that right now things have hit a bit of a snag, even though things were going pretty well. Ace of Pentacles is suggesting that the reason that this did hit a snag, at least for right now, is that something else has caught Kim's eye. Someone has made a certain advance towards her that's just really gathered her attention away. Three of Pentacles in the final position, however, does show that things will improve. It does show that both of you will kind of smooth this over and get back on track to how you both were. So I wouldn't really worry about her being done with you in any capacity. Now, going by your cards, oh my god, I said it again. Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if Kim is really done with you or is she coming back to you? Going by your cards, the Nine of Cups in the primary position in reverse does show that even though things did go in a very positive way between the two of you and there was a lot of progress being made, there does seem to be a bit of a snag that you both hit. It seems that the reason as to why Kim seems a bit different lately seems to be explained by Ace of Pentacles in the secondary position. It does seem like someone has made a certain advance towards her or in some way has gathered her attention away from you. Three of Pentacles in the final position does show, however, that both of you will end up working this out and things will smooth over pretty soon in the future. So overall, I wouldn't really worry about Kim being done with you or moving on. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds for both of you, as well as your compatibility with each other, you can give me a call or send me a message. Ready to learn the script and flip the page.
Renting out your account to an illegal migrant, you have no idea. You have no idea who's showing up at your door. And there's been randomly camera footage of like Amazon delivery drivers and other types of delivery drivers basically casing neighborhoods, casing houses that they then come back and rob. So this is a huge deal. Like this is not something that should be taken lightly. And so she calls really important attention here. It's not even just that we've created the servant class to cater the needs of girl bosses, and that servant class is highly exploited and dehumanized, but because of how low paying it is, it often falls onto the shoulders of immigrants and illegal migrants to do the work, and that creates a whole host of other problems within society because that in turn just further exploits people. These people who are obsessed with human rights have no problem.
Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if the man that you're building a life with is betraying or deceiving you. Going by your cards, the Hermit in the primary position is suggesting that right now, the person that you're with, he does seem to be hiding something and keeping something very close to his chest. Eight of Wands is indicating in the secondary position that someone has been messaging him. So there has been a bit of a back and forth with someone that he doesn't want you to know about. And Nine of Wands in the final position is showing that he ultimately wants to be with you, but it's like he can't let go of whatever's going on with this person that he's keeping in contact with. So it does seem that he is hiding something from you, but I think it'd be a bit of a leap to go ahead and say that he's betraying or deceiving you, but I would try to have an honest talk with him about what's really going on and why exactly he's hiding this communication. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds for the two of you, as well as any other issues that may come up, you can give me a call or send me a message. Huh? You've been talking to some fans. What do you mean? Talking to what fans? Oh, your fans? Oh, what are y'all talking about?
And without forcing your children to go into daycare centers, women just have to realize that and be creative about it. I'm not saying that you can't work outside the home and women can't earn an income. Women can and should. The issue is when you have, a corporate career woman trying to make partner at McKinsey while her husband is working in investment banking and trying to find, build his own career. Like you create a family dynamic that is just full of stress, and it's not sustainable, and it makes it really stressful. And then that stress is obviously transmitted down to the kids. And so there's been a lot. You just look around our society right now and how things have deteriorated, and I think it starts with the family. You have families that.
What do you mean? Relax about what? I was just asking.
Some are trapped in a dual income trap, but some also choose it by choice. And I think that the focus here is on the ones who are choosing to be girl bosses, not the ones who have to work out of necessity. It's the ones who are choosing to be girl bosses. They're working on Madison Avenue. They're taking big girl corporate careers, and then they, because of their social status in society, have taken a moral high ground and are dictating to every other woman how they should live their lives in return. So she goes on to say some other things like the wife, the replacement of home cooked meals, also has ripple effects. Like she knows before DoorDash, but we're eating more convenience food, more like.
Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know what's holding you back from achieving your goals. Going by your cards, 8 of Pentacles in the primary position is suggesting right off the bat that even though you have put in some effort when it comes to achieving what you want to do, it seems that you are kind of faltering a little bit in terms of commitment. 9 of Pentacles in the secondary position also shows that it does seem that you are very affected by your emotional state when it comes to anything that you're applying yourself to. So what this means is when you have really bad days, it really hurts your ability to work or do other things in your life, and that kind of compounds on itself very easily. Queen of Swords in the final position in reverse does show ultimately that what you're really needing is the ability to persevere and even to maybe exist without having an immediate outreach in your day-to-day life. So what that means is you do need to be a little bit more independent and not reliant on others. But I do think that you can still outsource your emotional support needs elsewhere. Just in your immediate vicinity, I think you probably do need to start tackling things in a more self-holistic manner. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds for you, as well as any other issues that may come up for the rest of this year, you can give me a call or send me a message. There's so many questions.
And all of those people are collecting paychecks. So you think of all the fraud that has come to light in Maine, in Minnesota, Washington State, in California. All of that has been administrated, right? And so who holds those jobs? Who has been enabling certain groups of people to exploit and steal from American taxpayers? Women. And so a lot of these girl bosses who are in these administrative public sector nonprofit jobs aren't just draining drain on the economy because of their paychecks. Like they have to be paid out of public taxpayer dollars, right? So they're not just superfluous and unnecessary and working bullshit jobs, but they have been actively contributing to the defrauding of the American people, which has led to the increase in funding for these programs, which has led to the printing of more money, which has in effect devalued our currency. So we are paying for this 3, 4, 5-fold, right? It's not just like that we're just paying for it in terms of higher taxes. No, the cost is really difficult to measure because there are secondary and tertiary consequences to this. So when you look at like all the fraud scandals that are coming out, don't just look at the numbers of how much these fake businesses have been generating. Think about it in terms of who's running all of these administrative programs, again, at the federal, state, and local levels. Who's cutting the paychecks for those people who clearly aren't doing their jobs? And then the politicians who are then elected in a lot of these cities who use the outflow of cash dollars for these programs as a signal that they need to ask for more money in the following year's budget, because that's how government works. I did this. This was my career in Washington, D.C. You are rewarded for expanding your budget. You're not rewarded for spending in a fiscally responsible way. You're not rewarded for being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. If you had a $10 million budget this year and you can justify asking for a $20 million budget the next year, that is how you're rewarded, right? So that money has to come from somewhere. So if it's not being taxed, it's being printed, right? And so there's costs here that is really difficult to even calculate. But it's obviously the burden affects all of us. Anytime you go to the grocery store, you and I are paying for what has been happening for years in places like Minnesota and places like California because of COVID policies, because of woke DEI policies that have been put into place into different countries. Well, one way or another, directly or indirectly paying for it. Okay. So she also talks about the feminization of society, and she talks about Helen Andrews' viral essay, The Great Feminization. I've covered that in a separate video. If you haven't checked it out, I would definitely check that out because I think she makes some really good points in that. But she says, earlier in the life of the girl boss resides an even more obvious source of her dependency, university. So while she talks about once the girl boss is in power or in her career, she's getting all sorts of support or calling for support from immigrants to provide basically wage slave labor, demanding taxpayer-funded childcare programs, demanding jobs and employment opportunities that really aren't justifiable in the first place. So you have that apparatus, but then to get to that point, you have to look at the higher education system. And she says higher education is disproportionately attended and staffed by women, is also funded in large part by the taxpayer with an output that adds to cultural revolution more than the wealth of the nation. So female students earn just under 60% of bachelor's degrees and a similar proportion of master's and PhDs. So women outnumber men on college and university campuses. Given that women more often choose lower paying majors such as gender studies and communications as opposed to structural engineering and computer science, it's little surprise that the student debt crisis itself is disproportionately female phenomenon. Women hold 2/3 of outstanding student debt, all of which has been financed by the federal government. So unless a serious policy change is made to diffuse this debt bomb, the high default rates will ultimately fall on the taxpayer, through whom the government already owns 93% of student loans. And so this is a big one. So to get to the place where women can be girl bosses and start demanding policies and taking action in the political realm, whether that's public politics or in office politics, they had to get the college education to get there, right? And so the college education, which is really just a credential at this point, is being subsidized by taxpayers, right? And it's being funded by
just if I ask them personally. Oh, I see.
I don't necessarily put the blame on the women individually, because a lot of people are going into college as 17-year-olds as children, right? Like this was my case, right? I signed on the dotted line on my student loans as a 17-year-old, not knowing the implications of it. I was able to do that before I could get like a credit card on my own, for example. So you're putting women and men too, anyone going into college right now, into very financially precarious positions. So I think we need to have a bigger conversation about that. But she raises a really good point here about how we're financing all this, and it's not even just financing the individual, you're financing the college and the university, right? So there's an incentive for these colleges and universities to have gender studies programs, to have all this stuff, because they don't have to worry about not getting paid for it, right? They're not selling something that the market is then validating. They are being subsidized by government-funded student loans. So one way or another, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Ashton or Abigail or Sarah enrolls in computer science or women in gender studies, the university is being paid nonetheless. And so it supports women to continue like pushing these low return majors, and that's what they're going to do because they need to keep generating students and the flow of students into these universities to keep getting the federal tax subsidies, right? So I think this is much bigger about individual repayment. I think that's a separate conversation. So I think we need to look at the structure of how universities make their money, the business model, basically these universities, the degrees that they're putting out, and the outcome of that, and how it's completely divorced from the labor market writ large. But these colleges are taking federal taxpayer funded student loans, or at least not funded, but backed. You're taking student loans that are backed by the federal government, by the Department of Education. We're giving them to women who are getting these degrees that mean nothing.
Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know why Tavares hasn't called you yet after spending the weekend together. Going by your cards, the Fool in the primary position in reverse does show that even though both of you did seem to have a good time together, it's suggesting that it wasn't the best thing for you to do. And it's also showing that there was a bit of a misalignment between the two of you, at least on a subtle level. The moon kind of builds upon this by showing, due to its reverse nature, that Tavares didn't seem to be really outright honest with you during your meeting together. So it does seem that that has a lot to do with why he's suddenly gone cold. The Queen of Cups in the final position does show, however, that there is something developing on Tavares's end. So I think you will end up hearing from him eventually. I'd say expect something in another week. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds between the two of you, as well as your compatibility with each other, you can give me a call or send me a message. Huh? Fuck. Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know if Tavares. Ugh. Hello, this is Shanoa. Now, regarding your question, you're wanting to know why Tavares hasn't called you yet after spending the weekend together. Going by your cards, the Fool in the primary position and reversed does show that even though both of you did enjoy your time together, it seems that there was a bit of a misalignment between the two of you, at least on a lower, subtle level. And it's actually kind of warning that it probably wasn't the best thing for you to have spent time with this person. The moon kind of builds upon that by showing, due to its reverse nature, that Tavares definitely wasn't being transparent with you whenever it comes to his intentions whenever you both did meet up. So that does have a lot to do with why he's suddenly gone cold. However, Queen of Cups in the final position does show that something will be developing with him regarding you, and that you should actually expect him to contact you within the next week. Now, if you want to know more about what the future holds between the two of you, as well as your compatibility with each other, you can give me a call or send me a message.
underpaid class of migrant labor who is not necessarily here legally, you have imposed new values onto American society that aren't necessarily shared. And so this is something that's talked about a lot in immigration conversations, but all the ways of immigration that happen, in the 1800s and 1900s were European migrations, right? So you had Italians come, you had the Irish coming over, you had European immigrants who had different nationalities, yes, some different religions, yes, different versions of Christianity, but for by and large, like they kind of shared a common background, common ancestry, common value system, right? And so over the years we've changed that, right? So you have people who come over from different places around the world. They have different customs, different expectations. Just a couple, and I think really good examples are obviously the Somali community, but obviously the Indian community as well. These are two sides of the spectrum, right? You have a lot of Somalis who have come over under protected status because of the civil war that happened in the 1990s, right? But they create these enclaves. What's been reported out of Minnesota is basically they kind of operate like a gang. They have like a gang mindset where you're taking over entire government subsidized housing buildings so that they're on welfare. They're not necessarily contributors to the economy, but they're just net takers, right? So you've seen that. You've seen that they've defrauded, everything from providing hospice care to autism centers to daycare centers in Minneapolis, right? So you've seen that documented. But on the other side, what's now also come to light is the H-1B visa program, and Indian workers who are coming here perfectly, legally and under the right, but they're doing the right thing. But there's a preference, there's an in-group preference to recruit from within your ranks, right? So if you have a hiring manager,
what delete? Should I just
right? And they
just
have
stuff out
the
of
option
I'm gonna delete
hire,
this comment too,
someone
or would that even
from
do?
the
What?
same province they came from in India.
No, you must already deleted it.
Who are they going to hire? So that's the reality of it. Is you're seeing a lot of groups of people who have come over because we haven't done a good job of regulating immigration. These people are able to come and they're able to they're coming to a point where they're not assimilating, but they have critical mass, so they can start taking actions within whatever system they're working in. So whether that's defrauding Medicare,
oh, you figured it out. Oh no, what?
Whether that's working within the H-1B visa program, and
YouTube filtered it out.
Within the legality, basically of and the loopholes of the systems they're in, but they're providing for in-group preferences, and so I think that is a huge, that contributes to our low trust society. So the reason why I bring that up is because you have these women, these girl bosses who have.
Can I do anything to help boost the spell?
Within society, they have taken us from a high trust society into a low trust society.
I believe you can.
In our communities, and then part of that is the replacement of shared values with enclaves of people who promote their own in-class or their in-group preferences that aren't cohesive, right? They're not the same. Taking an American community and applying Sharia law onto it, like it doesn't work, right? And so they've effectively enabled this to happen through their absence and replacement with other forms of domestic labor, often worked through by immigrant and migrant laborers. They also do the policies and the politics of they're voting on, right? Your open borders, this is stolen land, all that kind of nonsense. So they kind of go hand in hand, and it transfers us to a low trust society. And so that is a social cost we're all bearing. It says, for better or for worse, there's no return to the past. And I'm certainly not suggesting we try to resurrect traditionalism by force of law. I think the more likely path for social evolution will involve more work from home flexibility, more homeschooling, and more startup communities. I think that is absolutely true. Not just that, I think women have the opportunity and the ability to build businesses and do things that I think a lot of traditional women have already been doing.
Like what?
They're just not given credit for it. But you have the ability this day and age to build a business, collect payment, advertise online, provide a service. it's never been easier. Something I've been privy to now that
mostly.
we're about.
Okay. I don't know how much I can say. I don't know. You should try thirst trapping him. That usually works.
Justify it, sure, but they're constantly looking for like mother's assistants and people to help manage their household, someone to look after the kids, and there's all these jobs being posted, of homes out in wealthier parts of town who are hiring assistants, paying $25-$30 an hour, looking for someone who can help in the mornings to get the kids out to school, then at night afternoons take care of the kids, do light housework, do some basic meal prep and that kind of stuff. And some of these gigs are full-time, but some are part-time as well. And so you see, this is fascinating to me because it's like, okay, there's clearly a demand here, there's clearly a need here. Like, how hard would it be for a Gen Z woman to read the room, understand that there is a need here, provide that need, and then build a business on top of it, right? So then when she decides to get married and have children of her own, she has a business, right? She has an asset. Like I think women, it's not just work from home flexibility. It's the ability now to build businesses, whether you're building a Shopify store, whether you're being a service provider, whether you're coordinating service provision. Like, there's so many opportunities now to build businesses. It's never been easier, and so I think women have the ability to do this and would make more, and it would provide a stronger foundation for financial independence than working for the man. She says here, but let's be clear, the status quo is maintained by a network of laws and policies that push women out of the home and into the workforce. So she's blaming, she's blaming the laws. And so I suppose you could probably lump the family court system here and divorce laws as well. There's all of these, there's legal paradigms and there's policies that are in place that are basically bolstering these girl boss women, enabling them to rise to the ranks economically and socially, and they in turn convert that to a moral superiority of how they think the world should operate under the guise of feminism, and that is imposed onto the rest of us as an economic and financial cost, as a political cost, but also as a social cost. So she says here, the choice touted even by conservative variants of feminism is an illusion. In reality, the girl boss model is incentivized to the exclusion of more traditional choices, such as relying on a husband's single income, which are punished by our tax code, our anti-discrimination laws, our immigration policies, and our culture's ethos. So what do we do? How do we change the policies? And she recommends here no more illegal labor or mass immigration undercutting American workers. I think that's valid. Having the price of nannies and people making food and that kind of stuff compete at free market value. Stop allowing migrants to come in and undercut the price. No more preference for women in hiring and promotion. No more risk of damaging lawsuits to employers. No more federal loans and subsidies for universities and female-dominated majors and degrees that don't pay for themselves. No more federal funding of the female-dominated NGO complex. I'd go further and just say like the nonprofit industrial complex in general. No more public funding for that. So she concludes by saying none of these policy changes targets women qua women. They merely remove the unjust incentives and penalties that hinder women from pursuing traditional family life. Once we cut the girl boss's invisible but very real support strings, we will see just how independent she actually is. So basically cut all of the things that enable her to be a girl boss, cut it out from underneath her and let her actually be the independent girl boss that she wants to be. So I think these are some interesting policy proposals that are worth having conversations about. And I think as more information comes to light, as more is exposed about what NGOs are doing and what, the fraud that is being enabled and perpetuated by a lot of these programs, how, abusive HR is to men and how, some of that kind of stuff. I think there's definitely going to be an opportunity to start getting away from these policies and start changing them. But I thought this was an interesting perspective because, again, she talks about this from a policy paradigm as the means that is supporting feminist girl boss women and how they're not actually as independent as they think they are. And that leads to the title, the myth of the independent girl boss, because clearly, if you got your job where you're at, working for McKinsey or whatever, or somewhere on Madison Avenue because you got a college degree and that degree was paid for or subsidized in part by taxpayer dollars, like, are you actually as independent and deserving as you think you are? I think that's a very valid question to ask. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about the myth of the independent girl boss, and if some of these policy changes make sense, if they don't, and what you would do if you were in a position of power to change some of the policies? What policies would you change? I'd be curious to know your thoughts on that. Thanks as always for tuning in. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, follow, share, and I'll see you in the next video.
Need a new mattress but confused by all the choices? At Mattress Firm, we make it easy. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a perfect mattress. And right now, you can save up to $600. Mattress Firm, we make sleep easy.
So you leave the CIA, you get yourself a nice civilian job.
Are you kidding me?
It's good to see you. Whatever it is, I'm not doing it. I just need you to meet a guy.
No. God, I miss this. Miss what? Being out in the field.
Don't look directly at me.
Sorry.
Might as well just touch your earpiece.
Big Fred say it because he's scared. He's right to be.
Put your hands up. Put them up. Jack Ryan, I'm sure you're about to tell me that you're a civilian.
Because I am.
What do you know about Starlink?
We need an unsanctioned black ops team, specifically designed for psychological warfare, assassinations.
I shut it down.
The Starling has been resurrected.
They're intelligent. They're dangerous. And they'll do exactly what we trained them to do.
The storm is coming.
You ready?
Let's go cause an incident.
When you're being attacked, the rules change.
What's the difference between you and them?
I don't know.
Maybe it's you.
I'm lagging again. Huh?
I saw a spaceship in the ocean and a blue whale in the sky. Always turn the key. I ain't even been to Wonderland.
What do you want to know?
Can somebody tell me what kind of bird this is?
I tried to cancel it on my cousin. Snowflake said, hey, put me down.
Feminists love to talk about all the wonderful things that feminism has provided women. It's made it possible for women to take out.
What is oh, it's because I haven't. It's because I haven't eaten. Wow.
Hello, everyone. You know, I was engaged today before making this video, and I don't know when it's going to be.
It's still lagging. Okay. I'll just call it there since my stream sucks today.